The WAFB Podcast Network is sponsored by Neighbors Federal Credit Union.
Hey, good morning, Jacques. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. I'm talking to Garth Brooks.
Entering his second year as the LSU head football coach.
It was the only way I could get a foot in the door.
Joined by the icon, Kim Mulkey. Hey, Coach, great to see you.
Jacques Talk is sponsored by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp and Couillon's Cajun Barbecue.
Hey guys, welcome into another edition of Jacques Talk. We've missed a couple of weeks. That's partially my fault. That's partially football's fault and the schedule and a lot of things going on. But we are back and we are here to talk some LSU football with my good friend and longtime media member, Mike Scarborough. Mike, thanks for coming down.
Glad to be here.
Mike, of course, from TigerBait.com. How long have you been in the business?
It's approaching 30. If I told up, I'm thinking we're 27 or 28. Might be 29.
Yeah. So almost 3 decades there, TigerBait.com. And LSU right now, I believe they have 6 practices in the rear view mirror. And just real quick to start, I guess I'm just getting old and weak standing out there. I used to take pride in when people would say it's hot outside. Oh, no, it's not. Toughen up. Well, we've been out there for a few practices, and just to stand out there for an hour or so, a little challenging. I mean, this is the worst time of the year in South Louisiana, obviously.
Yeah, I'm one of the first guys who's going to find that light pole and get in that little strip of shade to avoid some of it, particularly when they go inside or they're switching fields. But it's brutally hot. So if you imagine how bad it is on us, what it's like for a guy in full pads. And but I tell you what, they've absolutely done a fantastic job of getting those guys hydrated. And what BK said the other day with, stretching it out, getting them acclimated a little bit more at a time each day, and but it's really hot. I kind of said it the other day on our show. I was like, I wonder, particularly with the route everything's going with the rich getting richer in college football, that if some point in our lifetime we might see college programs actually go on the road for a camp for a couple of weeks to get away. Head north.
You were joking about La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Yeah,
for us who remember
the
Saints in the late 80s, early 90s. And we'll take just a look at some of the LSU action, just kind of some generic football practice action of the LSU Tigers. And Coach Kelly said, I think a couple of days ago, he said we were out there for about an hour and 5 minutes, and the destination, the ultimate destination, is to be out there for 2 hours in full pads. So, look, we're in an NIL era now where a lot of people say the players are spoiled and they're soft and they're this and that. These guys right now are certainly earning the right to run out of the tunnel.
Yeah. And, look, there's NCAA guidelines on that as well. I know it differs depending on when school's in session. And but, look, they're real smart with it. And
here's Caleb Jackson right there, big number 28.
What a job he's done in the offseason physically. I mean, if you saw the before and after photos on Twitter, X, it's amazing how he's transformed himself.
235 pounds, and Joe Sloan, the offensive coordinator, talking about just like any running back, right? They come in and they do things to kind of wow the fans, as Caleb Jackson did a year ago, especially when he flattened that young man in Starkville, Mississippi. But there are so many things that go into being a running back in terms of blocking, not getting your quarterback killed, the scheme, what are we running, and those are the kind of things that they hope Caleb Jackson's picked up on going into his second year, because even in high school he was a bit green at Liberty.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I was there the first game of his senior season when he broke his ankle and, of course, missed his whole senior year. Was not a midterm graduate like Joe Sloan said yesterday. And I mean, when we got glimpses of him, it's obvious what a power back he is and how fast he is. But it's also, you got to know how to block. And I mean, if you go watch some of Josh Williams' blocks, he's devastating for a guy who's not physically imposing. Some of the blocks that he'll throw on edge rushers that are got 30 pounds on them are amazing. Yeah. And so hopefully Caleb Jackson is grasping that so he can be a more featured back. And I mean, I asked Sloan that question yesterday at the presser, and man, he went a good 3 minutes on that answer. And I think it's obvious they want to get him involved, but it also sounds like when he was talking about Caden Durham, the true freshman, that he thinks he's another kid who wasn't a midterm grad, that he thinks he sounds like he might be a little bit further along than Caleb was at this time last year.
Trey Holly's still in limbo. Nothing new on him. I think Brian Kelly back in the spring certainly had hoped to have this resolved by July, I think. And I've heard some things about, I don't know if it's official or whatever. I've seen this date, September the 18th, has been out there when it comes to Trey Holly. So, the judicial system not working nearly as fast as Trey Holly and Trey Holly fans would have hoped. Let's talk about where it starts with the quarterback. Garrett, don't call me a gunslinger, Nussmeier. Back for his 4th season, and I tell you what, these one-on-one drills, obviously, they're beneficial, or the wide receivers and the quarterbacks have the advantage in these drills, right? But still, kind of shooting fish in a barrel for Nussmeier here.
Yeah, we all post these videos when we get out of practice, and the LSU fan base is looking, it looks like the DBs are struggling again. And yeah, there's a little bit of that, but it's one of those deals too where, you talk about either that unit or defensive line. Look at what they're going up against on the other side of the ball, and how many cases in the upcoming season are players on the defensive side of the ball going to have an easier time on Saturday because of what they're facing in practice every day.
And taking a look at who he's throwing to, I believe that's Pimpton right there across the middle. Here's a deep shot, another deep shot by Nuss, and right there into the hands of Chris Hilton Jr. Chris Hilton Jr. looking pretty good from what we've seen. He was labeled a speedster out of high school. He wants to be a well-rounded wide receiver. He changed his number from 17 to 3 and hopes to stay healthy. Kyron Lacey, meanwhile, trying out to be the punter after that catch. And I agree with what I heard on the radio yesterday. Kyron Lacey's had a dominant camp. He really looks good.
He does. And a lot of them, they've got a lot. The options at wide receiver are absolutely fantastic. And we see Aaron Anderson now looking like the best he's looked. You bring in a couple of transfers that are well-heeled and have done nice things, and Nussmeier's going to have a nice group of receivers. Tight ends, I think Mason Taylor's going to have a bigger year than he had last year. So Nussmeier's got a lot of weapons. And I think the running backs are going to catch a lot more balls out of the backfield.
And some people would say, how can you be better at wide receiver when you lose Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., a couple of guys who are now in the NFL, 2 first-round draft picks? Malik in particular, take a 5-yard hitch and go 50, 60 yards with it. But just collectively, the offense, and starting with the offensive line, right? A year from now, I think we'll be shedding tears about the offensive line's all going to be gone, right?
Right.
I mean, you talk about Will Campbell, Emory Jones, Miles Frazier, right?
Right.
And Dellinger and all these guys. DJ Chester, he'll be the one back looking around saying, hey, where did everyone go? But I'm sure Brad Davis.
That's why you're seeing Brad Davis get after the second unit so hard in practice, because he wants to get those guys ready. And I think what he's done recruiting-wise, Coach Davis, Brad Davis, on that offensive line, despite all those losses you just rattle off, I think they're going to have a pretty darn good offensive line in 2025, and that's saying a lot. We've never seen offensive line recruiting like this at LSU on a consistent basis since BK and Davis was carried over.
Brad Davis certainly, the whole coaching staff, this is the best coaching staff Brian Kelly's had, top to bottom,
right, in
his 3 years. I know they haven't played a game yet. We don't know the record and all that. But certainly that's where I'm kind of like, I don't know how to feel about this team. I'm like, what are they going to be? Are they less talented than last year, but will the coaching elevate them a bit? And I always talk about the defense, and I guess we can take a look at the defense now with Blake Baker, the new defensive coordinator, who obviously was here in 2021 as a linebackers coach. That was Ed Ogeron's last year. Things went off the rails. He only got a chance to stay here 1 year. He's married to a former LSU soccer star. They felt like they had their dream job. Oh, God, we got to leave. So they go to Missouri for a couple of years, which I think they enjoyed Missouri. But now he gets to come back in a much larger role and direct the defense. Young guy, likable guy, good energy, seems to be connecting with the players. From my understanding, Brian Kelly considered Matt House the most intelligent defensive coordinator he had ever worked with, but the message was lost on the players, and that connection wasn't there, and we saw what happened.
Yeah, and I think we saw it in the spring. I think this defensive roster, I think they're flying to the ball. They simplified it. Certainly there will be continue to add more and more to the defensive playbook on them as the program progresses under this whole new defensive staff. But I think the players are a lot happier in this system as well.
You saw number 10 there. That's Deshaun Spears, a safety from Denham Springs.
Stud.
Changed his name. He was McBride.
Right.
Now he's going to Spears. And we saw some other pass breakups there as well. Notably, none of those passes were thrown by Garrett Nussmeier. Those are the backups getting broken up there, but can't be any worse on defense. Right?
No. I think they're going to be a lot better. Now, what does that mean? Does that put them in the top 50, top 40? We'll see. It's a lot of it's Jims and Joes. I think they're going to get the absolute maximum they can out of the quality of the players they're working at. But you still have questions, I think there's we're going to see what newcomers make an impact. But can the interior defensive line get some pass rush? Can they hold things down? I think the linebacker group, which hardly gets talked about a whole lot, is going to be very solid. But are they going to get much pass rush off the edge? And of course, we know the issues that have been at corner and safety, but there's some safety in the safety room because of the numbers that they've got. And, you mentioned Spears, Jawan Johnson. They've got some really talented freshmen in there that see how quickly they bring them along.
And the never-ending discussion about Harold Perkins and how to utilize him and where to put him. Are they putting him in the wrong spot or the right spot? It's interesting, I brought it up a few times, that Harold Perkins' statistics last year were not as bad, I think, as some people thought they were. Like, he had 13 tackles for loss in both of his first 2 years. Now, he had 2 less quarterback sacks last year. They dropped him back in pass coverage. He had that interception at Missouri, which was kind of crucial in that ball game. But, Coach Kelly, I think, told us Perkins has taken his off-season conditioning the most serious he's taken it since he's gotten here. Hey, you can't be 210 pounds. You got to be bigger. And so apparently he's 220. I don't know how he's keeping the weight on with this sweat going on out there in this heat. But we'll see. We'll see how they play him and if it's the right way to play him.
Yeah, and that's what he needs to be there, and because that's gonna what NFL teams are gonna want to see and what he's capable of doing, and can he be an every down running back that can do everything and not just a specialty
linebacker
guy, not just a specialty guy.
You said running back.
Yeah, linebacker. He was a heck of a running back out of high school too.
Well, he ran a touchdown in the bowl game, right? Did they give it to him in Wisconsin?
In high school, there was a lot of people thought he was a better running back than a linebacker.
Yeah.
I mean, he could play on both sides of the ball. He's that special of an athlete.
It's the Devin White deal, right?
Yeah.
Devin White was another linebacker that was amazing as a running back. So defensive line, right? This is the thing we've been talking about for months, and this is a thing that you wonder about in the first game. If they run all over LSU, USC, do you say this is a problem that's going to be there all year? This is not like a quarterback who has a bad game and we can get him better, or is this going to be a case of we do not have the personnel to play and win this year? Now, I'm sure they're ticked off. Jacoby and Guillory's been hearing about it. These other guys been hearing about, they're going out in the portal to get guys. The guys LSU has aren't good enough. And so we take a look at Bo Davis, who's coaching the defensive line and trying to get the most out of him, and some pretty intense instructions going on out there. And look, they look good in the uniform. They got some big dudes out there who look athletic. Can they play? I mean, Gio Paez, we just showed him 99. He didn't do a whole lot at Wisconsin, right? Yep. To this point.
And I've liked what I've seen from Suggs. We're all, of course, looking at Dominic McKinley. I think he's going to take some time. Physically, obviously, he's impressive, but definitely raw. Look, first of all,
Chemo Macanaioli.
Yeah, you basically got to have these guys stay 100% healthy. You can't ill afford any injuries. And then when you look at the box score at the end of the game, what's going to be the rotation and how many guys are playing? Is it going to be by committee? I think it's probably going to be. Because at this point, how many plays could you rely on Jacoby and Guillory a game? Can he be a guy that goes the distance with very few plays off? We'll see. I think it's going to be a defensive line by committee on the interior.
JVR Suggs, coming from Grand Valley State, you just have to wonder how is that going to translate into the SEC. Now, I don't know if it's sour grapes or whatever, but they're saying this guy is better than the two we missed on in the portal. He's benching 450 and squatting 620, and he's going to make plays. And Jacoby and Guillory said at interviews the other day, he's making plays against SEC linemen. Coach Kelly said we wanted a guy with experience who's played a lot, and we got him. And so, so we'll see how that goes. I mean, on the edge, just small chatting with Coach Kelly at SEC Media Days, he was very high on Gabe Relaford and very high, more high now than a year ago on Deshaun Womack. Basically said Womack a year ago had a man's body, but his brain or his attitude was a little childish, and that Kevin Peoples is bringing out the best in him.
Peoples is a great coach, and so he's poised to have a breakout year. They need him to. You get a lot of pass rush off the edge, and that's going to help your cornerbacks in a big way. And so they've got to figure out a way to get that done. And, of course, we all talk about, and we're going to get Coach Baker, Saturday?
Yeah.
It's going to be all about how's he going to bring pressures and from different locations. And you can think back a little over 20 years ago in Muschamp and Saban and all the different names they had for
states.
And bringing blitzes. And I don't know if it's going to be like that, but I think they're going to have to be creative, particularly while you try and figure things out on that defensive front.
Well, in our most recent press conference with Coach Kelly, he said, we've been down this road before, right? In terms of schemes and elaborate, defenses, and boy, this looks shiny and bright, and let's do this and that. And the players are like, what are we doing? And somebody's busting 150, 60 yards. So to simplify it, it just seems like the message is less thinking, more tackling, play football, have fun, and was it paralysis by analysis? Let's avoid
They're
that.
all saying that. BK said it, Sloan yesterday.
Yeah, we're in an election year,
Analysis
right?
paralysis.
Yeah, we're in an election in politics, right? And people are grabbing different slogans. Well, that's LSU's one on defense, right?
Right. It's I thought Sloan yesterday was really good, and it was kind of true. And Bonnet at the end said, y'all can listen to him all day, but the truth is, Coach Sloan could talk all day. But I thought he had some very good answers to everybody's questions, and I think they're very excited on offense. Obviously, like a lot of major schools, you can ill afford an injury at the quarterback spot. I really want to know what the difference is in the battle for number 2. Because from what we've seen out there, and of course we don't get to see everything, and we don't know how they're grading out when they break down film. But I think Ricky Collins is from my eyes, is looking like he's planting a flag to be the number 2. But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, and a guy has to play to get experience, and Ricky hasn't played yet. A.J. Swan got a lot of experience at Vanderbilt, so he has SEC experience. He's the kind of guy that you would hope if Nussmeier got shaken up in the third quarter and had to miss a series or two, you could put him in the game and you could still function and operate.
But, Collins has the athleticism, and that's another guy that's in fantastic shape and has really gotten leaned up and looks the part. And so the fact that he's such a dual threat and can, really do some things with his legs. I mean, people forget about Ricky Collins. He was basically the best athlete at Woodlawn, a 5A school in the 9th grade, playing 4 sports. And so, there was clips out of him in the 9th grade, 360 dunking basketballs. And, he's a whale of an athlete that can run.
Another thing I want to show you guys, the LSU football team, I think Coach Kelly does a good job of keeping them engaged in the community and doing some different things. They were at the Baton Rouge Food Bank this past Sunday. And, Mike, who says you can't, not dance a little bit and have a good time while you're packing food? I believe they packed 15,000 pounds of food, 4,000 pounds of rice, and a good thing for LSU to be involved in. That place is huge. If you've ever been to the Baton Rouge Food Bank before, I think it's like 172,000 square feet or something like that. But I've been told Mike Manning, they're doing a great job with the food bank, talking to Brian Kelly. Apparently Louisiana is number 1 in childhood hunger and number 1 in elderly hunger as well. Not good things to be number 1 in. No. So the food bank in Baton Rouge doing the best to that's the most common need a human being has, right? Got to eat. And so good to see this.
That's awesome. Getting the players out in the community and giving back. And that's, and they're very good at scheduling those type of events and getting those kids involved.
One quick thing about that, Mike Manning, who we just showed, he came over to me and he said, you can tell who the leader of this team is. And I said, really? He said, who's that? He said he was the first guy off the bus. He was the first guy pointing everybody what to do and everything. Will Campbell. Will Campbell is the leader of this football team. And Nussmeier is the leader of the football team too, but, Will's physical presence and the way he goes about doing things and his kind of egoless country personality.
He's got that North Louisiana accent. It's very deep. He sounds like he's in his mid to late 30s. And I kind of laughed when BK talked about how he doesn't say much, but when he does, they listen. He stopped just short of, saying E.F. Hutton.
I was going to say,
and really showing some age. But, he is absolutely one of those guys. When he speaks, they listen. And you knew he was going to be like that right out of high school. He's just a team leader and no nonsense. He does his work, and he's just a fantastic kid. And great parents up there, and one of the kids I enjoyed covering the most in high school.
Well, and I think he's had the sound bite of camp so far. The other day, I think I asked the question. All I asked him was, what do you like about this team? Which is kind of a way just to have guys talk about the teammates and what they're seeing. And he just said, we're in year 3. It's time for us to do something. 10 wins isn't good enough anymore. 10 wins gets people fired, which is true. Somebody said.
Yeah, because 10 the whole get 9 wins and you're getting a 10 win. When you start hearing coaches say, well, we got an opportunity to get 10 wins in a bowl game. Well, that puts you in line with a previous coach, LM, and you're in Mark Richt. That's
right.
That's kind of
right.
The bare minimum you should do at LSU.
Look, I told Scott Woodward on the sideline, I said, I know this isn't the ultimate goal, but I didn't mind these 2 bowl trips going to Orlando and Tampa in late December, playing on New Year's Day when it's sunny 75, 80 degrees. But obviously, with a 12-team playoff this year, and real quick, I give Brian Kelly credit. He's kept those 2 teams together and got them to play in bowl games. I mean, Jaden Daniels didn't play in the bowl game, but he had nothing left to prove, but everyone else pretty much played. And so to win those games against Purdue and Wisconsin, I give him credit for that. But now with a 12-team playoff, you just have to wonder about the future of these bowl games and who's going to buy tickets and who's going to go. And it just –
I mean, when you go on those road trips to those bowl games, you're seeing it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, the average fan, okay, am I going to buy tickets in a hotel in Orlando, or am I going to wait for the season opener in Vegas when they play USC?
It's an easy decision.
Yeah. Or you're, if baseball.
Especially with Vegas, the average cost total between hotel, airfare, meals, probably running people no less than $6-7 for a couple.
Yeah.
And good luck if you're trying to book a flight now, get home at a good time on Labor Day. It's going to cost you an extra $1,000 a head.
Yeah. Well, no doubt. The trip's expensive. You got to pay. I mean, which is ironic, right? Because typically it's like, hey, here's a $75 plane ticket to Vegas. To get you up there so you blow all your money. But in this case, I'm hearing $1,200, $1,300
and that's the truth. You can go on YouTube and watch travel logs, because we were looking at booking and you start seeing, we get these rooms for $50. Yeah, those are all during the year. This is Labor Day weekend, so it's peak. They're hitting you with the big dollars, but typically it is cheap to go to Vegas. But it is Labor Day weekend, and they got you.
Mike Scarborough joining us here. I guess we're on the stretch run here. Look, I can't break down these things as well as some other people do in terms of, some other guys that charted every offensive lineman versus defensive lineman rep and what they were seeing there. I do know, I think I saw Savion Jones making some plays, going up against Emory Jones a little bit off the edge. What else have you seen?
Yeah, someone pointed that out to me when I was fussing about edge rush and where's it going to come from. And but how many times out of 30 is that going to happen? But it'll be great if Savion Jones is that guy. I mean, I'm a guy who had him as a 5-star out of high school, and it would be great for him to have a breakout year.
Special teams, Coach Kelly said we've got to get better on kickoff return coverage and kickoff return yardage. Well, the 2 things that he's brought up about that. Like you and Buddy Sanji were talking about, it's been fair catch city the last couple of years. The last 2 years they put a guy out there and he fumbled, and it's like, okay, we're going to
was it Trey Palmer?
Safety.
It was Trey Palmer 2019 or 20, the last punt return for a touchdown?
I think that's what you guys were talking about. I mean, I certainly remember Chark against Auburn in 17, but I mean, you put Malik out there in 22 against Florida State in Superdome. He fumbled a couple, and then that was the end of that. And then last year it was Aaron Anderson in Orlando, right? And he fumbled, and then that was the end of that.
But what was it? But when he was asked that question in the spring, I believe, wasn't he? And he cited a statistic about the average punt return nationally.
Yeah, it's been taken out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was less than 7 yards.
And somebody
if
asked
I remember
me,
right.
I mean, I haven't really watched it yet. But somebody was asking me about the new NFL kickoff and what they're doing there, and I said I've kind of seen it with that. What was it, the UFL or whatever that league that started?
The thing about it last year was even on all those fair catches, it was like with what Jaden Daniels was doing on every drive. I mean, you didn't care if it was a 17-yard line or the 36.
Yeah,
because of how quickly and potent that offense was. I think you're going to want a little bit better field position, but then at the same time, they really want to eat some clock and have some time of possession. They want the offense to, have some 8-play drives and 10-play drives and not score so quickly because they want the defense to have some time and get some rest and not keep them out on the field and put them in danger.
Right. Well, it's funny. We did an interview with Jimbo Fisher recently that we'll get to down the line when used for something, a bigger project we're working on. But he told a funny story about LSU playing at Auburn in 2000. And I think Josh Booty threw an 80-yard touchdown strike to Josh Reed. And Saban was upset. What are you doing? Scoring in one play. Our defense needs rest. And so those are the kinds of things you don't think about. You should be like ecstatic. We just threw an 80-yard touchdown, but hey, our defense needs rest, and those two things, the yin and the yang, so to speak, work together.
Mm-hmm.
So
could have used that in 04 when Early Doucette got mugged and there was a no call. They picked the flag up. Was that 4? Yeah.
That was 6. 2004 was Ronnie Crude.
Right. Yeah.
The leverage call that got called once the rest of the eternity.
Yeah.
that play. And then, 06 was the picked up the Early Doucette. That, not to go too far off into storyland before we wrap up, but I would always see Craig Buster Davis. We used to work out at the same gym, Definitions, before it closed right there next to the original walk-ons. And there were days he'd come in there and just start getting upset and talking about that game like it happened yesterday. I mean, that obviously was to him, the worst loss he had ever had because they were Les Milesing it for 3 quarters, trying to run it straight ahead when you had Jamarcus Russell, Craig Buster Davis, Dwayne Bowe, Early Doucette, and
you're talking about 06.
06, yeah. Then at the end they started throwing and they got tackled at
that was
the
the
2.
game that probably Jimbo Fisher got the most hate. Yeah.
Or Jimbo Fisher said, I'm not working with Les Miles anymore, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm leaving. Enough is enough. All right. The first poll was out. It is out. The coaches poll. LSU checks in at number 12. Thoughts on that?
I kind of thought. I'm sure you were probably in that vote, maybe somewhere between 12 and 15. And going into SEC Media Days, were you shocked when they ended up being 5 at the end of the week in the league? I think most people were thinking, could they be 7 or 8 early in the week that week? When it came in at 5, I thought, damn, they probably BK would have liked to have been 7 or 8. Then they had something to sell.
Right.
But I thought that was a nice number there.
Well, and that whole thing's going to be interesting to watch because there's no longer the East and West that we've been accustomed to since 1991, 92
Right.
They started that. For the last 30 years, we've been the East and the West, and who wins the West and who wins the East. I mean, I'm sure that's going to come up in the lingo, and somebody's going to have to correct themselves. Oh, that's right. There is no East and West. We got 16 teams in one pot. And from what I heard, you might need to bring Oppenheimer back from the dead to break down the tiebreaker at 2 and who gets to go and who doesn't. If you've got a.
Yeah, because I mean, what is there going to be more of? 10-2 teams bunched up, 9-3. I mean, with that many teams, you're going to have a lot of teams with similar records, and we still don't know what some of the tiebreakers are going to be. Right? Still have to settle that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that does it for now. We don't want to get too bloated and just keep talking for the sake of talking. Try to hit all the high points for you here with LSU football when it comes to the offense, the defense, the special teams, and counting down to a season opener against the USC Trojans in Las Vegas. USC number 23 in the rankings, and so they sneak into the top 25. Lincoln Riley. I'm sure there'll be a lot of talk about the 2 head coaches, Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly, the 2 guys that were linked to the LSU job late in the game before Kelly went to USC and LSU hired Brian Kelly. So Mike Scarborough, thanks for being here.
Enjoyed it. I feel like coming up here, and we've only seen Eads in here, and it's like I feel like it's Step Brothers, and we're playing with Dale's drum set. Yeah,
well, I actually had to pay John Eads rent to use the studio today. This is not the John Eads studio, by the way, but John is been an amazing addition to our sports staff. He is constantly on the move, shooting something, talking to somebody, and producing content. So we certainly appreciate his hustle, and
absolutely,
we appreciate this great studio here at WAFB. I'm Jacques Doucet from Mike Scarborough. Thanks for stopping by, and tell your friends about Jock Talk. Let's spread the content across the web.